In this video, I'm going to go and be resolving a couple design issues and also be reviewing this KSGER or KSGER T12 solder station that I ordered from Banggood, which came from China, of course. And here's one of the things I like to do anytime I order cheap Chinese test equipment over from China. And it's not with all China stuff. It's just particularly for some reasons with these solder stations and desolder stations and stuff like that. I always check the electrical safety on it because I see sometimes where they won't leave leads untrimmed. That's one of the issues which I'm about to show you. They also like to switch to neutral instead of the hot side, which is usually a common issue with most of these cheap Chinese gear. And then also to isolation and all that I like to check. I always like to check electrical safety because it's one of the things that seem to be lacking on these Chinese products. Now we're going to go ahead and look at this real quick. And we're going to show you one of the major ones. And you can see that lead right there is not trimming. That's actually physically touching this metal casing because you can feel the kind of resistance as you go in and out. That's touching right onto the case there. And where that goes to is the hot side on the IEC connector right there. So if I would have just plugged this in, this chassis here would have been definitely live. So now this is not, now you're not going to have probably this problem on all of them. This is probably someone just literally forgot to just trim this particular lead because everything else is trimmed off. And they just happened to forget this one. But man, if I would have plugged that thing in, that thing would have been hot pretty much. The other main issue with this, and now this I do see commonly a lot with these, is the isolation here. And the reason why I say isolation would be a problem, because this goes to your secondary side, and the heat sink lays right on that primary trace, right there where you can see the right there, that goes a little bit into that primary trace. And the heat sink, which I did remove, I already kind of fixed the issue. There was no air gap, it was sitting like this. And this would have been sitting directly, and I'm not sure you can see it or not, but it would have been sitting directly right on top of that trace right there. So the only isolation now that you have effectively is that solder mask right there. Pretty bad if you ask me. So I went ahead and fixed the issue, and what I did was I dremeled this out. I just used the cutoff reel and went ahead and cut that there. Or you can use even like snippers or whatever because it is soft metal. And then trim that out right there to leave a nice gap there. After that I went ahead and used the stone to kind of even it out, and then I went ahead and sanded it down to smooth it out. So now you look at it, I'm not sure you can see it or not without me moving that capacitor there, but you can see there's a nice gap there now. So now we have some isolation on this, and it's a shame too because they went through trouble. They put your isolation slots across the whole entire transformer pretty much and the whole secondary side, so they did that right, and they do got an optocoupler right there too. So if it wasn't for that, it would have been properly isolated pretty much. But that right there pretty much took away any effort they did on the isolation slots, because the only thing you have then now is effectively the solder mask. So I did fix that issue. Now the other main issue, which I don't know why they still do this, but they went ahead and soldered the legs directly onto the trace of this PCB board right here. And I don't gotta tell you, plugging this in and out like this crazy is gonna eventually crack, not only crack those joints, because anytime you use an edge mounted type joint like that, they usually always crack though, but it can actually break that trace completely off the board pretty much. So they should have just ran wires directly into that instead and pushed the board forward this way. Pretty much less similar like what they did right here, and it would have been fine. I don't know why they went and did this crap, probably to save cost on wiring or whatsoever, because you can see someone at some point thought of it, because they got a space here for a connector right there, which looks like it runs directly to the trace. So kind of beats me why they exactly did that though, but I'm gonna go ahead and fix that, because I don't like just relying on this right here, because if you're just plugging this in and out over time, that could crack, and then you're gonna have to take it apart and of course repair that right off the back too. The other thing is the lack of case grounding, because you're using a metal case right here. Now that it might not be, you know, 100% necessary. My main concern is if the tip itself on this here is actually grounded to this over here is more of my concern there. What I am going to go ahead and put a ground to the case as well. I'm going to do that on a different video on a different date because I do got to get some more screws and stuff like that, and then of course the actual, because I like to crimp the actual ground wire onto that and then bolt it down onto the actual chassis itself. And to do that, and let me see if I got the back of the casing in there. I'm just going to make a hole right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a locking washer with a couple nuts and stuff like that to secure the crimp connector once I get done actually putting one in, and then it'll be grounded properly. But it's just one of those few design flaws that you see a lot with this thing, and you do have to check these. I mean, this is a good example just for the fact they didn't go ahead and trim the lead off. So I'm going to go ahead and do those changes. I'm going to reinstall this heatsink. I just want to go and show you the dial that I took out to actually go ahead and put back in there. And I'll get this thing all the way back together and we'll see how she works pretty much. So went ahead and actually installed the dial and the heatsink back onto this board. And as you can see, it has thermal grease now on it because it didn't come with no thermal grease from factory. I also went ahead and did this one too while I was at it. And I went ahead and got rid of the edge connecting they had going on there and actually hard soldered some wires onto there. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that back onto this board here and then install it back into the case and see if it actually works. So went ahead and finished the modifications to this KSGER T12 solder station and went ahead and took care of the electrical safety for the most part on it. The only thing I got left to do is install the grounding to the actual case, which I'll do at a later time once I get the hardware for that. But at least everything else for the most part is pretty straight. We went ahead and actually glued the board down, which they didn't have glue, was actually flopping around. But that's all fixed. You can see now there's an isolation gap between this heatsink and that primary trace. And the other thing is, you can see how loose that would have been. So if you would have had that edge connected, that definitely would have cracked and gave you problems down the road. But now, don't have to worry about. So we're going to go ahead and power around and see if she works, because I haven't even tried it yet. And I'm glad I didn't, because I definitely would have got bit from this one. Let's turn it on and see if it comes on. And there you go. She does live. So let me go get the cover on it, and we'll go and do some tests with this solder iron. So went ahead and finished closing it all up, and it does work. So went ahead and selected tip type. For those that want to know how to actually select tip type, you just go ahead and push in while turning right, and that will allow you to select your tip type right there, which right now I got D24 in there. And then you just hold down the button to get out of there. If you want to go to menu, you hold down the button. And for those of you that get it like in Chinese, just go to 15. Then you hit enter, and then you can select your language out, Chinese language, for those that want to know. So it's number 15 on these. To get out, just hold it down. And to get out again, same thing. So we're going to go ahead and pretty much use this, and we're going to see what the temperature is out of the factory, and then I'm going to go and run the calibration and all that on this. So right now we're going to go ahead and test the temperature of the tip. Right now it's staying 24.9 Celsius, and right now I got the unit set at 300 Celsius. So let's see how well it is on without having to do the calibration. Usually I always get wet this really good. And yeah, it's off quite a bit. It's actually reading 340 Celsius, so we're definitely going to have to calibrate that. It's actually reading a lot higher than what it should be off factory, so there you go. So went ahead and finished actually doing the calibration on this particular tip. And first thing you do have to do is you do have to select your tip type, and that's just by pushing this button in and going clockwise pretty much. If you don't happen to see your tip come up in that menu, then you will have to go to the menu, which is by holding this down here. and then you go down to tip, which is number 5, and then you go to whatever tip. Let's just say B2 for example. See how there's an X? You would have to just push that in, and then it's going to put a check mark on there, and then hold this in to get out of there, and then that will allow you to use the tip. But since we're not going to change anything, we already did. All you have to do is hold this down, and this will get you out, and then hold this down, and this will get you out again. Now to go to tip select, you just push this in and go clockwise, and then there you'll be able to select your different types of tips. And then to exit out, you just hold this down, and there you go. When it's calibrated, it's going to show an asterisk. When it's not calibrated, it's going to show a 0. Now, in order to actually go ahead and, you know, do the calibration itself, you're going to have to push this in and go counterclockwise. And that's going to get you to the tip adjust menu. And then therefore you go ahead and click the start. And then it's going to take you through 3-4 steps. And pretty much it's going to set a temperature. It's going to show you what it was set at, and then it's going to ask you for what the real temperature is using this meter right here. So you put your tip on here, you see what this is reading now, and then you go ahead and rotate the knob to get to that number where it shows highlight to get the real temp, and then you go to the next step. And after you get done, then you can exit out of it pretty much. And then it should show an asterisk when you successfully got it done. Now right now you can see it's set at 300. Well, saying 308 right now, which is the real temp, but it said 300. It's just regulating it right now. We're going to go ahead and turn this on, and we're going to see exactly what that's actually reading on this. So here you go, and remember before it was reading way too high. So let's see what this is saying now. And it's ping on. It's 301, and it's saying 301 on there. So let's go to boost mode, which is just, you just push this clockwise real quick. We're going to see what that boost says right there. Right now it's saying 352, 353, 354, whatever, give or take. Let's see what it says here. Okay, let's turn it around. I'll say that's out by about 3-4 degrees, but it's good enough. It is fully functional now, and pretty much resolved most of the issues that this thing had. One thing I do want to go ahead and test, and I'm going to go and turn it off, and I'm going to go and test to see the tip's actually grounded real quick. So we're going to go ahead and check to see if this is grounded properly. The first thing we got to do is flip it around. We're going to go to the ground side of the IEC connector right here. We'll try to get a good connection. I don't know how good of connections it could be because we're just touching it. Okay, hold on. And there you go, about 1.3, 1.4 ohms. It's grounded. At least it's not floating. That's a good thing. Now, as far as do I go ahead and recommend this actual solder station to most people, no. And the reason for it is because my unit, for example, had 2 major flaws with it right off the bat. And one of them that's actually common on it, and the one that's common on it, is the fact that that diode heatsink on the left side right there is literally pretty much touching right up on that primary side. The only thing that's keeping it isolated is the solder mask that's on the board there. Not a good thing to have the primary side almost interact with the secondary side. If that's to say vibration, that would rub off of heat over time or whatever. And for some example, you do happen to have a line fault, well then you're even deeper trouble. So not a good thing. You do have to go in there. It's easy fix. You just go ahead and cut a piece of that heat sink under there, leave a good isolation gap. As far as the rest of the power supply and isolation, they did a great job. I don't know how they managed to overlook that one little part right there and go ahead and put the isolation octocoupler and all that in there and mess it up with just that heat sink right there. That's just bad. That just tells you a lack of quality control. And the reason why it's hard for me to even recommend nowadays, because this thing's been out for over a year, and I just literally ordered this thing about 2 weeks ago, and the fact that they still have yet to actually fix this flaw over here. So that's kind of shows the lack of care, that they really don't give a shit, and that they're willing to let out a shoddy product like that go out. And so that's why I have a hard time recommending this. The other thing too is on my particular unit, I'm not sure it's an issue of all units. I really haven't seen it much on all of them, but I have seen on a couple people say that they leave the leads, you know, not cut and stuff like that, but they didn't cut the live lead on that IEC connector right there, and it literally was touching the bottom of the case. Like, you could feel the resistance as you pulled it out and in. So God forbid I would have plugged this thing in right off the back, I would have got a good shock out of this thing. And let's just say you happen to be in a basement, or you happen to be where grounding is, and you touching this and that, you would have probably got electrocuted. So no, as it stands out of the box, it's a death trap. I do not recommend as far as that. Now, if you're willing to go through the effort and actually go ahead and revise all the fuck ups and stuff that they did on this thing, and go ahead and actually kind of, you know, cut the heatsink right there, go ahead and wire properly on that edge connect, which is another problem. You don't want to ever have this here actually just edge connected there, because just this alone, doing that, you can see how that moves a little bit because it's not even screwed down, it's clipped in. That's going to go ahead and break the traces right on that board right there, and then it's going to of course make the unit unusable, and you have to go in there and repair it. So that's also another flaw with this thing and stuff like that. Now, once you work out all the issues and stuff like that, it's a great bargain actually for $45. I mean, compared to the real Heiko and stuff, you get more features out of it. It's not a bad as far as recovery and all that, and the controller is actually well known and stuff like that, and there's modifications you can do. It got more functions and features. You can do a full calibration, which I'll probably do an actual real good one. I just did a quick one for now to test it, but it's a really good controller. It's just the oversight on it and the lack of quality control on this thing that makes it hard to recommend. But if you're crazy enough to buy it, go ahead and do your electrical checks, go ahead and fix all the design flaws with it, and you'll have a great solder station, no problem and stuff like that. So this concludes the video and the reviews. I'll go and show you how to do more solder and all that other stuff, and how to actually solder once I get the rest of the tip for this thing, and how well this thing performs overall long term.